Our next storyteller is Danielle Bees. Danielle is a composer and a pianist whose work has been heard here in the US and abroad. Most recently, some of her work is being played in the National Library of Romania, and we are so honored to have her share tonight some work. Now, Danielle is going to be sharing a piece that was particularly birthed out of COVID as she collaborated with liturgies that walked alongside the Beatitudes. And tonight, I invite you to reflect as she shares one of her pieces that shows and highlights the biblical blessing that Jesus offers to those who mourn. So Danielle, thank you. We're excited for what you have to share.
Hi everyone, as Isaac said, my name is Danielle Bees, though you might also know me best by my nickname DJ. I am a composer and a pianist, and I have been writing and playing music since I was at least 13, probably even before that. I grew up in a very musical family. My mom was my first piano teacher, and I actually composed my first piece ever on accident when I was just sitting at the piano, messing around, waiting for my mom to come in and begin my lesson. I fell in love with it immediately then, and I haven't stopped loving it all of these years and 2 music degrees later. My music has often been inspired directly by God and by biblical stories, and my faith ties hand in hand with the pieces I compose, even if they're not explicitly about God or the Bible. I grew up in a Christian home, and I accepted Christ at a young age, so I suppose it was natural that the music I would eventually write would be influenced by the most important aspect of my life. God has taught me about beauty through the study of music, and He has given me so many incredible opportunities to bring that beauty, joy, and life to those around me, and even to those who I've never met through the music He inspires me to write. I've known from a young age that I wanted to spend my life writing and playing music, and recently I've realized more deeply that God created me to create, and my career in art is a massive part of my ministry. Now, people often ask me how or why I compose, and I always have a hard time answering because it's really difficult to explain and describe. I compose because I literally can't imagine doing anything else. I compose because it is such an ingrained part of who I am that I can't change any more than I can change my appearance. Now, I can't take credit for the gifts that God has given me because I didn't ask for them, but I am so grateful that He did give them to me and that He allows me to use them and to find joy and passion in what I do every single day. This last season during COVID has been especially challenging for me, as it has been for all of us. I was unable to begin my new job in concert producing. That was exactly what I was interested in doing. And I found myself suddenly being unemployed. I have struggled through confusion, frustration, anger, and disappointment. Yet in the midst of all of it, God has been so faithful. He provided opportunities for world premieres abroad and for connections locally, and I've actually been more prolific in my writing in these past 7 months than I have been in over a year. I honestly don't believe that the music that I have written during the season would have been created had I not experienced this season, and I feel that I've grown in unique ways as an artist. God has shown me more than ever that even while my industry is almost completely on hold, He is inspiring and in every work I create, and He has a plan both for me and for my music. I am still in a season of waiting and confusion, and I cannot say that I am someone with perfect faith all the time. I am not. But I am slowly learning to entrust my life, my career, and my art to the Lord and to the plans He has for them. Which brings me to the piece that I would like to share with you all this evening. Back in March and April, the creative team at COTC wrote a series of liturgies based on Scripture that were addressing the difficulties that everyone has been facing during the pandemic. The worship team has been having songwriting nights, songwriting groups throughout the summer, and for the month of August, I was asked to compose an instrumental piece based off of the liturgies. And I got to collaborate with my friend Serene Lee. Shout out to Serene. If you don't know her and haven't heard her music, check it out. She's incredible. She was also composing a piece, and we gave each other feedback throughout the process. Loved it. Love her. I was so excited to write this piece because never before have I been able to use my exact career skills of composition for my church community. As I was reading through the liturgies, the one that stuck out to me most was the one for those mourning a loss. Our whole world is grieving. Whether it's a business, a home, or a loved one, so many people have lost something dear to them. For me, I was mourning the loss of my job and apartment situation and the plans and dreams that I had for 2020, and I knew that it was time to write a lament. I often felt very emotional while I was composing this piece because I was allowing myself to feel the weight of everything that had happened since March, and I poured my own grief and personal sorrow into each line. I chose 4 lines of text, both from the morning liturgy as well as the liturgy for those who feel stuck, and composed a piece for solo cello and piano that encompasses 4 sections. Each section is delineated by a line of text that is not spoken out loud, but is actually used as an expressive marking that the musicians will read and then interpret through the music. The first section is "You have felt salt run down your own divine face," reminding us that Jesus too felt sorrow and pain. I tried to capture in the music here that sort of hiccup that you feel, or you're trying to catch your breath as you're crying, which is signaled in some of the rhythmic portions of this particular section. The second section is "How can we wash another's feet when we cannot touch?" This section comes out of the frustration I'm sure many of us felt when all we wanted to do was go out and serve, but all we could do was stay in and isolate. Here, the rhythm, especially in between the top line and the bottom line of the piano, there's different rhythms going on. There's triplets going against 8th notes and 16th notes, and it just sort of represents that frustration and that tension that I'm sure many of us felt. The third section is "We mourn for the loss and death of our good dreams and ask that you resurrect them if your gracious will allows." That line of text especially affected me as I read it because it was a cry within my own heart that God would restore what I and what we all had lost. In the music here, this is actually the first moment when the cello and the piano are playing in harmony in a duet with each other. And the reason I did that was to represent the we communal aspect of grieving and mourning. Finally, the last section is "You use us to write a beautiful story amid crisis." Even in the suffering, good can and will come. Just as in many psalms, this piece begins with sorrow, but ends with hope. However, since the future is still uncertain and we still have no idea when this season will end, I didn't want it to feel concluded or resolved, yet I wanted the listener to still feel hopeful as we put our trust in the Creator, Restorer, Healer, and Comforter. I'll be playing a shortened and slightly different version than the original tonight because sadly I don't have a cellist with me. So consider this a teaser of what's to come. I pray that you are able to mourn and hope as you listen. Here is "For Those Who Mourn."
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.